So there's lots of different ways of doing AI, and I'm just going to take you through a couple of different applications. So everything I do here is like very specifically, it does one thing, and it does one thing, if I say it does one thing well. So I'll just start with a couple of examples of things that I personally have used AI for in my career. And I'll also start the same by saying I'm not an AI engineer. I am a recovering academic, I guess you could say. Still going. So I've used AI for tracking headings of nocturnal moths, tracking horseflies landing behaviour. I've used it to track horses, to track people on horses, track people on horses' movement of horses. You'll see it a bit. I've also used it to investigate the evolution of the honeybee visual system relative to environmental cues like flowers and water and the sky. So basically I was taking a lot of pictures of flowers and water and blue sky. Not that we have blue sky here. And then also I've used it for business cases, taking all sorts of marketing materials, so events like Facebook posts, adverts, PR events, and putting it all together and seeing how does that affect sales and also downloads of apps. And also clearly here I've used it to be lazy and to give me pre-generated graphics because, yeah. So lots of different ways that I've used it. So the main thing I wish I'd used AI for was doing my PhD, which was tracking the eyes of this guy here, which is a mantis shrimp. And that was the title of my thesis that I wish I'd used. But anyway, that is a story for a different time. So AI can be used in lots of different ways. It isn't all generative. So I see OpenAI and a couple of other minor players that you might have heard of, obviously using more of the large language models, like the chat-based things. So these kind of just generative AI that does lots of different things, does it pretty well, does it really well, really impressive. But they're kind of, it's just a different form. So it's kind of like they're the laptop to a specific software. Again, an obligatory AI drew this. There are, roughly speaking, two types of AI. There is predictive and then there's generative. So generative is the stuff that talked before was talking about, so all of the, so generating copy and images, whereas the predictive stuff basically takes in a load of information and then uses it to give predictions or make measurements, basically more of a scientific tool. And so it's the predictive stuff is mostly what I do. So I'm going to show you 3 different case studies that how AI is being used by different businesses. The first one is AI Seat Analytics by Ride-Sun. And actually, this was my app. This was the first app that I started with. It was called the Blackboard Question app, and it got bought last year by the Swedish company Ride-Sun. So this app, you video somebody on a horse, and it automatically detects the key body points, key points in the body, and it looks for alignment. So when you ride, there is a specific body posture that we're looking for that is considered good. So we've done a traffic light system, so green is really good, amber are things to be aware of, and the red are things to work on. It then synthesizes, it takes that video, and then it puts it into a single graphic that says, okay, on average your position is this. So it's a pretty terrible riding position, that example. So it gives people feedback, very quick and easy to understand, because the idea is you should be able to use this on a horse. So you should be able to get the feedback that you need from the system immediately. And then it also goes on to give them suggestions for things that they can do to improve. So all of this is AI, but it's all the sort of things that a good coach would do. And it's also a system that coaches can use. So it's kind of the AI is there helping to assist the coach and give people feedback. So this is an example. So it's all markerless, so that's the original video. So normally I would say you can do this on a phone, but this was quite high quality video, so I'd be lying to say this was taken on a phone. But the markers are then placed over the top, and we're also starting to track the horse. So the markers on the legs, that just stay one colour because there is no good or bad. The movement of the horse is just how the horse moves, depends on lots of different factors. But there is one position that we want the head in, so you'll see that colour changes when he drops behind the vertical sometimes. So what we can do now is start to build up a better picture of how the horse moves relative to the rider, and start to see sort of the synthesis of the two, and basically get a huge amount of data out. But obviously data is only as good as what you make of it. So just to go through a little bit more details about this app and like why it was designed in the way it was. So it's entirely offline, so the model sits on the phone, so you don't need to have internet for this, which obviously if you're in a situation like this, in the rain, mud, visible, there is, you know, it needs to work instantly. You can't be waiting on the Wi-Fi because there is no Wi-Fi in the field. Also, data comes out like that, and that means nothing, even to a scientist. It's like, well, what is that? It would take ages to actually understand this is the movements of the horse's legs. You need to be able to actually interpret the data and put it into a form that people can understand. So in some ways, we're simplifying things. So it's taking all of that data we get from the AI and simplifying it down into one single message that somebody can really easily understand. The other thing I would say about this is it's currently called AI Seat Analytics, but we're about to do a rebrand and remove the word AI from the product because our target demographic finds AI quite intimidating or worried, and they kind of aren't into it. So even though we want to emphasize that we are using AI and we don't want to hide that fact, it isn't a selling point. It's not doing us any favors, which is quite interesting. So obviously, AI relies on data. I'll stop it there because it makes people feel sick otherwise. So there is a lot of labeling of data sets. So obviously in this case, these are horses. So somebody has to manually go through and click on the markers, click on the key points of the horse. And this is one of those tasks that quite often is farmed out. But actually in this case, it involved quite specific knowledge because you need to have the data set to be valid. Like there's no point in training it on crap data because you get crap results basically. So unfortunately, this led to us spending a lot of time clicking on pictures of horses because we had the knowledge. You know, different horses have different characteristics, and little ponies up to race horses will all look slightly different. But to someone who's trained, who already has that knowledge, it is quite easy.
How many pictures did you have to do?
Well, so we cheated a little bit in that instead of training our model from completely scratch, we did transfer learning. So we used a model that's already been used in the COCO dataset. So actually we've only used about, I want to say 2,000-ish images. So, I mean, in terms of like, for a normal person, like, oh, jeez. But for AI, that's nothing. Like, that's embarrassingly small. You probably shouldn't even say that in public. So, you know, there are...
years worth of work.
Yeah, there are hacks and there are cheats and stuff like that. And I do know a pretty well-known company kind of working in this industry and actually had their kids labelling things. So, like, child labour is not found on this industry. So, like I say, obviously these are examples of AI that uses machine vision, but it doesn't always have to be images. So another company that I'm working with, Endurofit, it's another question business. I do have interests outside of the question. It just so happens that these two are good examples. And they have an app that uses GPS location and a heart rate monitor to monitor the fitness of a horse. And the thing I've been working on with them is using the phone's inertial motion sensors to determine whether on the horse you're in walk, trot, canter or gallop, or if you're actually on the floor walking along. And that works quite nicely. And again, it's all about data. It's the integrity of your data set. So we use a slightly different model for this, but it's the same. Data is data. It doesn't matter if it comes from videos. It doesn't matter if it comes from, you know, phones, motion sensors. Data is data. And the nice thing about it is, as well, is you can use multi-dimensional data. It doesn't have to be, you know, just the same X, Y, and Z. It can be lots of different things. So here's an example of a business that isn't a question that I'm working with. So this is a suite of work that I'm doing with a cabinet company. They do guitar cabinets, custom work. So does anybody play guitar at all in here? So yeah, the speaker cabinet is obviously pretty integral to part of your performance. And so they offer different models with different sounds, different speakers, obviously the different image, different looks, different backs, all of the different acoustics. So at Black Dog, we've been working with them to build the product configurator. We also made an order and productivity tracker. Again, it was an app and a website, sort of there's more of an internal assistance type thing. So there was AI based in here looking at customer patterns, tracking orders, tracking the productivity, all the kind of boring AI, which is kind of a lot of the deep neural network stuff. And then we're also, based off of a funny conversation we had, doing some trade stamp promotions with them. So I will show a demo of that. I say. I've got 2 demos, so I don't quite know which one of the 2 is going to come up here. Okay, this is the wrong demo, but we'll do this one anyway. So this is a demo of, hopefully... Actually, can I borrow someone from the audience? Is that...
Would be.
Just can I borrow you? You can stand there, that's fine. Huh?
Must have be a tram.
Well, can I use you? Is that okay?
Yeah.
What does that mean? So what this is doing is finding your shoulders and finding your hips. So if you drop a shoulder down, you start to see everything turns red and green. So the idea of this is the app that goes is on the phone for the horse riding. So it's only set up for front on this one, and it's all run offline, so it doesn't rely on any of the internet or anything like this. So this is just running locally on my machine off this.
But it's just at the top.
At the moment, this version only does the top, but obviously the full version of the phone does the full works. See if this one works. I was going to go for a different webcam this time. So the idea of this, hopefully, doing its thing. No, there we go. The idea of this came about that it would be just a webcam. You're at a trade show, busy trade show, and you have a webcam pointing at the audio, the sort of the thoroughfare, and that people, as they walk past, it puts the product in their hand. And we kind of were playing around with different versions. So this is a super rough demo. So you can have different designs of cab. You can have a more realistic type one, or even a teeny tiny one. So the idea that it follows you around is an attention grabber. I use the word gimmick, but the idea is that you're on a busy thoroughfare in at a trade show, and you're doing everything you can to get people's attention. So it's a use of AI that's very specific. It's not exactly useful, but it's fun and it gets people's attention. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do like that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that AI doesn't have to be this huge, massive thing that you need, data centers to run. It can also be something that runs on an older laptop with a webcam or on a phone. I use an iPhone 8 for development because I'm not an iPhone person. And so everything has to run on the iPhone 8 because I know if it runs on an iPhone 8, it'll work on most of the newer models. I guess the message of this is that AI is this huge thing. It's also this tiny thing, very specific things. And it could be put on phones, it could be put on old laptops, it could be in trade stamps. It can be pretty much used for anything. I think it's kind of the limits of your creativity and what you can think about. And the tools are there now that it's very easy to build these things. And yet the sky's the limit, basically. So I think I've pretty much whizzed through that. So if you've got any questions or ideas for really bizarre apps that we can build, because that's always fun.
How do you find your customers? Obviously, I get the question.
Yeah.
But back where did the speaker cabinet come from?
They're local to me.
Okay.
So just kind of big connections, and it all started out with the productivity app tracker thing. I was working something for somebody else, and it kind of came up in conversation, and then they were like, "Oh, could you build us a cab customizer?" Yeah, sure. How hard can it be? It's hard because also they want a bit hyper realistic, and also they have, I think we've got up to 22 different models of cab on there, and from the front, side, back. So that's a lot of rendering. So I'm pretty good at Blender now, and I've got some designers working with me that they're really good at that stuff.
So in the equestrian demo, you were extracting like key points like the wrist.
Yeah.
How easy? Well, how difficult would it be to extract like someone's entire figure? It's like their wrist diameter is that. Things like that.
Yeah. So there is that semantic segmentation stuff. So yeah, that's entirely possible as well. But it's like, what do you do with that?
Just have an idea for imagine a Primark, you walk up to a mirror, hold a label up, and it dresses you in the clothes you've got.
Yeah, it's all of those sorts of things. And again, all of that stuff's possible. It's all possible offline as well. So I think, there are genuine concerns. Two things. One's practical. Can't always have internet. Like I showed you, muddy field, no internet. And two, it's like, who's looking at your data? Where is it going? Is it going to some server farm someplace? But there was that thing about, like, there was a Facebook app that aged you, and it turned out it was all going to some shady site, and everyone got a bit scared about that. So, but there are genuine fears about who has your data, especially in the age of facial recognition. So things that can run locally as little network close as possible is good. Obviously, the limitations, you can't get something as impressive as ChatGPT to run on an iPhone 8. Okay.
Yeah, do you have, is the model's huge, even for the big range of things that you're running on the device?
These ones, they're not massive. No. It's maybe slightly larger than a normal app, but it's not too bad.
Maxing out the capacity on an iPhone?
No, that was the whole point. I'm cheap to buy an old one, but it's practical, right? If it works on that, it'll work on an iPad Pro.
Is that a big part of the work, the optimizing? Do you have a big model that you have locally that then you condense down?
I think it's in the planning stages. So it's like, what do we care about? We can track anything. We can track pretty much everything till the cows come home. But unless it's useful, unless it's specific, like, what's the point? If people don't understand, like some of the stuff we're also working on is movement patterns. So like, what's indicative of someone that's maybe got a slightly dodgy hip or a certain, the horse moves in a certain way, all of those things. But it takes a while to interpret that. So it's very much like, let's be targeted and specific. Let's just not track everything just because we can, which is, it's tempting. Everybody likes data.
When you showed the video of the woman running around, the horse running around the camera, and then the tracking of the dog, what's the sort of time between that initial video and then getting the tracking data?
So we can do that live. So you saw that demo we did, so that runs live. And that one, that was a massive video, so that was part of our promo stuff. So that took us ages to download from the provider. So that pretty much can happen in I'd say with a big video like that, I'd say probably, it took slightly longer than the actual tape. It wasn't quite instant, but it's fast, and especially if you're running a GPU. But it can run on a CPU as well.
You showed where you were working on the horse movement, so walking, trotting, acting. And you were applying some machine learning to sensor data. Were you torn between not doing it that way and doing it like a really traditional, let's write an algorithm to actually do this?
Yeah, but it's really hard, and I'm really lazy.
A lot of edge cases.
So initially
it feels like one where,
It's difficult because there's so many variables, and also the video I showed you is how it should be used. But people don't use it in the way that I want it to.
Upside down.
Users use it. You don't know how people are going to use it until they actually use it. There's lots of swearing when I look at videos that have failed, and I'm like, well, I can't see the horse in there, so that was one of them. And actually, machine learning, we can give it more examples and train it that way rather than looking for specific peaks in the data. Looking at convolutions, combination of sine waves and stuff like that. Because initially, that's what I thought we'd do. Certainly with sensor data, that's certainly the way I thought we were going to go. But if you're lazy, just collect data, train it. It's fine.
I think it feels like that's the way a lot of those sort of issues are now going to be solved. It's like some machine learning rather than 10 developers hacking away at some algorithm.
We still do have not smart AI, the traditional if this then that. Still counts as AI, right? Machine learning. So we still do use some of those to say, you know, how far away is the person to do all that stuff, and there are bits of logic, but like you say, you just don't know if someone's going to use upside down, sideways. So you just try, get it out there, learn from your mistakes, and build on it, basically. So yeah. But if you have any other questions or want to chat to me about anything random, clearly you can do pretty much anything with AI.